Today we have a late spring, early summer Yin Yoga class, and this is one of my favorite themes, which is heart and hips, as we move into just this transition to more fire and more of the heart space, staying grounded through the hips as we open up through the element of fire, which is upward rising. So we're going to begin by just finding a comfortable seat. We do have some props today, and I have a couple of blankets. You can use any blankets that you have in your house. They do have some yoga blocks, but you could use books if you don't have blocks. And then we have a bolster, and you could use a pillow, a couch cushion. You could stack several blankets on top of each other if you don't have a bolster. So you can definitely use things that are around your house. So don't worry if you don't have exactly the same things as I do. All right, we're gonna close our eyes and just take a moment here. If you're sitting in Sukhasana in easy pose, and if you want to have some blocks underneath your knees, you can, just to make it as comfortable as possible. As we begin to settle in, and just notice the state of our body today at this moment. Maybe any strong physical sensations. And checking in with the mind, noticing any thoughts that may be racing. And bringing our attention to the heart center. Noticing if we feel any tightness or constriction here. And inviting the breath to move into and through any sensation that we feel here. As we soften through the heart center, happy heart, happy body, happy nervous system. Noticing the shape of our breath that feels full or wide or narrow. And just bringing our attention to our inhales and our exhales. Noticing our sits bones connected to the ground, the bowl of the pelvis and our spine rising up out of the pelvis, base of the spine to base of the skull, and then the area around the top of the head. And softly opening the eyes, or you can even keep them closed. I'm going to remove my blocks here, but you can keep them if you like. And we're simply going to walk our fingers forward here, just finding our very first forward fold. So we don't have to go all the way to our capacity. Just allowing the head to soften. Maybe the forearms come to the floor, maybe not. You can use a block if you like, even though we won't stay here too long. And just taking some breath into the hips. Noticing the two sides of the body, right and left. Breathing behind the neck and behind the heart. And then we'll begin to walk ourselves back up to seated. Take the hands behind us, bring the feet in front. I'm just going to lift our pelvis for a moment, releasing our head. And drop our pelvis down. We'll cross our opposite foot in front. And we'll begin to just drop our head here. We can walk our hands forward, maybe resting our forearms on the block. And taking a few breaths here. Breathing into the kidneys behind the waistband. Breathing behind the heart, softening through the neck and shoulders. One more breath here. And then rolling up through the spine, one vertebra at a time. You can take the feet in front of us and just allow our knees to windshield wiper side to side, releasing any tension in the low back. Good. And then we're going to come to a wide knee child's pose. You can come through all fours for a moment. And we'll take our knees out towards the sides of our mat here and taking our feet together. If we want to have a blanket or even 2 blankets over the heels, we can place them now. As we sit our pelvis back towards our heels and extend through our arms, option to bring a block underneath the forehead. If your forehead is on the floor, you can roll it side to side, opening up the third eye, softening in between the eyebrows. On each exhale, allowing the hips to soften and surrender a little bit more. If you have a lot of space here between your pelvis and your hips, you could bring a bolster here as well. Or you could place a bolster underneath your upper chest. Option to stay right here, or to thread this right arm underneath the left and turn the head to the side. And you can take the side of the face down to the floor, or again, you could use a block if it's too much for your neck. That right palm is facing up towards the sky. Surrendering the hips on each exhale. Finding 3 more breaths on this side. Find a long inhale and a long exhale. And then unwinding that right arm, taking the forearms to the floor, and just shifting the weight forward and back a few times. Taking that left arm, threading it under the right as the side of the face comes to the floor. Making any adjustments that you need. Continuing to soften and surrender your weight to the floor. Breathing into the belly. Finding 3 more breaths. And then finding a long inhale and a long exhale to release this side. Taking some weight in that right hand as you uncurl the left. Coming to all fours, you can remove the blankets, taking the knees underneath the hips. Let's take a few circles through the hips here as we release through the head. Shifting our weight to the side, to the back, to the front. And then we can reverse the direction a few times. Coming back to center, looking at your fingers, making sure they're spread nice and wide here. We'll take a few rounds of cat-cow to continue to warm up the spine. As we inhale, allowing the belly to drop, the chest to drop, to the chin to lift. And as we exhale, crossing into our hands as we bring the belly button towards the spine. Inhale. And exhale, rounding through the spine. Inhale, arching. And exhale, rounding. Inhales, filling. And exhales, letting go. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Walking the hands a little bit farther here. We can either come to a bolster or a block with our forearms, or some blankets. I'm going to come towards a melting heart pose with the praying mantis. We can walk our knees back here. They stay hip width apart. We can bring the forehead to a bolster or to the floor. We want to have this hip stacked over the knees still. And there is a little tilt in the pelvis as we lift the tailbone, allowing the heart to melt down. You can tuck your toes under if that feels more comfortable. We'll stay here for about 1 minute. If you do need to come out of the pose, just come out really slowly. If you want a little bit more intensity, you could take your palms back towards your head. So get a little extra stretch underneath the arms.
I need 3 more breaths. And finding a long inhale and a long exhale. Taking some weight into the hands as you come back towards all fours. Let's release the bolster. And we're going to go ahead and come down to our belly here. Just to rest for a moment. You can take the hands stacked one on top of the other and allow the heels to flop open. And just noticing that belly rise and fall. And taking the hands out to the side so you can take one up and one down in a cactus pose. We're going to take the right knee out to the side and then stacking that right ankle underneath the right knee, so we're opening through this hip here. If you want to place a blanket underneath that knee, you can. And the head is turned towards the right as well. Right arm is in cactus, left arm in reverse cactus. So you have a half frog pose, opening through that right hip. As much as possible, allowing the weight to soften to the floor. And softening even through the mouth, through the jaw. Softening in the throat and behind the eyes. I need 3 more breaths on this side. Finding a long inhale and a long exhale. Turning the forehead to the floor and bringing the arms in front here parallel to one another. Shifting the upper body, we keep the leg where it is. Just finding a Sphinx pose in the upper body. Forearms are parallel to one another and shoulders are more or less stacked over the elbows. If this feels like too much of a stretch, you could shift your elbows forward. If you have any tension, tightness in the neck here, you could bring a block to rest your forehead. Noticing the breath enter into the belly on the inhale, letting go on the exhale. for the last few breaths. Invitation to open the eyes and bring the gaze up in between the eyebrows. And then go ahead and slowly release the upper body and slowly release that right leg. Take the hands one on top of the other, allowing the forehead to rest. You can gently roll your hips side to side. And then resting for a moment. Taking your head now to the left, taking the right arm in a reverse cactus, left arm in a cactus, and then taking that left knee out to the side. Left ankle is stacked underneath the left knee, and the left knee is in line with this left hip. Half frog pose. Welcome to place blankets underneath the knee or the ankle. We'll stay here for about a minute. And if at any point you need to come out of the pose, just move slowly to come out. Surrendering your weight to the floor. Softening behind the eyes. Taking 3 more full breaths. And then finding a long inhale and a long exhale to release the side. Shifting the head slowly back to center. And then taking that right arm up as we gently lift up onto our forearms, coming to half frog, half sphinx. If you have tightness in the back of the neck, you can take a block underneath the forehead. And then for the last few breaths, invitation to open the eyes and lift the gaze in between the eyebrows. And soften the forehead to the floor. Releasing that left leg slowly. Stacking your hands one more time, allowing the heels to flop open. Breathing into the belly, letting go. Bringing your hands underneath your shoulders, tucking your toes, and slowly coming back towards all fours. Tucking the toes under, we're going to walk our hands back towards our knees. You might feel a lot of stretch here in the feet. Option to bring, again, a blanket to the heels. And you might want to stay right here, or you can walk your hands up towards your thighs. You can adjust your pinky toe out to the side. And taking a few breaths here. If at any time this feels like too much, you can walk your hands back to the floor. If you feel like you have a little extra attention, you can take a circle with the neck. Nice slow circle, just once in each direction. And bringing the head back to center. We'll walk the hands back to the floor. Keep the toes tucked under. And we can press back towards a down dog really gently here, just stretching the backs of the legs. And then we can walk our feet forward for a dangle. We're going to take our feet hip width apart here and bend our knees as much as we need to catch our belly on our thighs. If you need to place some blocks underneath your hands, you can, or you can bring your forearms to the blocks here. If you start to feel dizzy or intense pins and needles or like electrical nerve pain, then we want to come out of the pose and we can rest on our back or in child's pose. Otherwise, we'll stay for a couple more breaths, softening the head. Breathing into the belly. You might notice after some breaths here that maybe you are okay to release one of the props if you have one. Let's take 3 more full breaths. And a long inhale and a long exhale to release this pose. We're going to turn our feet out today. I'll just shift myself this way so you can see. And we're going to bend our knees, come down to a malasana or squatting pose. You can take blocks underneath the pelvis here. And then we'll take our hands in front of the heart, bring our elbows to the insides of the knees. So this is one of the most grounding shapes we can take, and it's also a great hip opener. If you have a lot of space underneath your heels, then I would recommend putting a blanket underneath the heels on both sides. And we want our props to be supportive enough that we can stay in stillness. So if this is, we don't need to come to our full capacity of stretch. If this is too much, then we can, place more height underneath our pelvis. Another block, another blanket, a pillow. Let's take 3 more full breaths. And a long inhale and a long exhale to release this pose. Taking our hands to the floor, see if we can lengthen through the backs of the legs. And then as we inhale, sit the pelvis back down. And exhale, drop the head. Inhale. And exhale. And last time, inhale. And exhale. Keeping the legs straight, we can walk our feet back to parallel. And then we'll walk our hands back towards our down dog. And we'll drop our knees down and untuck the toes. We can sit back on the heels. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Okay, coming back to all fours, we're going to take some circles through the right knee and hip. And then we'll take a few times in the opposite direction. And then we're going to sneak that right foot through. We're coming towards a dragon pose. So we want to have our right knee stacked over our right ankle. And then the back toe is untucked. If you need a little extra padding underneath that knee, you can place a blanket. And if you want to have some blocks on either side of that front foot, you can here. Dropping the tailbone, lifting the chest. Noticing if there's a lot of weight on your hands. You can take the blocks to a little bit of a higher level. Scooping just gently, so gently in the belly. Maybe even coming up onto the fingertips for the final few breaths.
And we'll find 3 more full breaths here. And then we're going to lengthen through this front leg and flex the right toes. We can take our blocks back for balance here. Let's have a half Hanuman. Noticing your sits bones. See if you can find a little tilt in the pelvis and reach the right sits bone to the right and the left to the left to square off the hips, shining the heart forward. And then replacing that right foot, we can walk our blocks forward. And now we're going to come towards a deer pose. So we're going to shift our foot over to the left side of our mat and come to like our shin parallel to the front edge of our mat. And then we're going to take the left shin parallel to the long side of our mat here. So you have like 2 90-degree angles-ish. And then today we're going to make a little table. We're going to take our blocks and our bolster on top here. If you want to come to a pigeon pose, you can. If you prefer a pigeon pose, you can keep that left leg long behind you and make sure the top of the foot is on the floor. That's also an option. After taking a couple of breaths with the spine vertical, then we can begin to shift our weight forward as we soften through the head. Taking a little forward fold. And if you feel like after a few breaths that this table is too high, then you can remove the blocks underneath and just have the bolster. And if that feels too high, then you could shift the bolster away and just come down to the forearms. You could even have a block underneath the forehead. And we'll stay here for about a minute. Once again, as in any pose, if you need to come out of the pose, just come out slowly. Softening in the shoulders. Allowing the breath to move into the spots that feel the most tight. Finding 3 more full breaths. And then bringing weight into the hands as you walk yourself back. Let's swing that left foot forward, take the hands behind. Just float the pelvis up for a moment and down. And then just allow for a little side to side windshield motion.
crossing the legs, bringing the hands forward, coming back to all fours. So we'll take some circles now on that left hip, circling the hip a few times in each direction. And then the next time it comes around, we'll sneak that left foot through. We're setting up for our dragon on our second side here. So maybe we bring our blocks. Maybe we have a blanket under that back knee. And we want to have that left knee stacked more or less over the left ankle. And then if we need to adjust the pose, we can move that back knee a little farther back for more stretch, or we can move it forward if we want less stretch on that back thigh. And today we're taking an awake dragon, so we can drop the tailbone, lift the heart, bring some length to the upper body. Trying to keep our elbows soft here, dropping the pelvis. Deep hip opener. Lots of sensation in these hips. So using this opportunity to invite the breath to move into the spaces that feel the most tight. And noticing here if you can breathe all the way to the base of the spine, the bowl of the pelvis, the perineum. Softening. Finding 3 more full breaths. And then we're going to lengthen through the front leg as we flex the left toes. Maybe we walk our hands back for balance here. And just check in with our sit bones, left to the left and right to the right, squaring up our pelvis. And then go ahead and replace that foot. We can shift our blocks forward, take our hands to the floor. And then we're going to walk our left foot over to the left side of our mat. And then we can either stay here in our pigeon pose, we can come to a deer pose, which is 2 90-ish degree angles here. And then we can set up our table with our 2 blocks and our bolster. And you're going to notice that this second side is going to feel different than the first side. It's always the case when we do a big opening stretch on both sides of the body. So just notice if this side is more or less open than the other. Take a moment to feel the vertical spine, and then as you're ready, you can fold forward, softening the head, the neck and shoulders. And as we did on the other side, you can track here as you find your first edge and you hold the pose for a few breaths. You may notice that you're ready for a second edge. And you might want to shift your props, maybe releasing the blocks or releasing the bolster altogether. Find about 5 more breaths on this side. Excuse me. And find a long inhale and a long exhale to release this side. And then walking yourself back to a vertical spine. We'll take that right leg in front. And we'll go ahead and roll down onto our spine. We'll keep a block nearby. You can hold behind the legs as we roll down. And just take a moment to extend the legs long here. Noticing anything that's moving on the inside. And then taking the feet to the floor about hip width apart. Option to take a block underneath the pelvis. We want it to be on our lowest setting, probably. If you have a really long torso, maybe you want it on the second setting. But whichever setting you put it on. And if the block is too high, you could just place a blanket. We want to be able to surrender the weight of our pelvis to the block. And after a few breaths, option to lengthen one leg at a time. And then perhaps take the arms up overhead for a little bit more opening through the chest, the heart. Floating the hands back down by the hips, bending the right knee in, hugging it in. And then bringing the left knee in, release the right leg long. Bringing the right knee in, and flexing both feet, pressing them up towards the sky. Let's find a little point and flex in the feet. Maybe some circles in the ankles. And then finding stillness for a few breaths in waterfall pose. Just a nice restorative pose that helps bring the blood from the legs down through the pelvis, through and around the internal organs and back towards the heart. If you start to feel any intense electrical pain or like nerve pain or pins and needles, then you can just bend the knees. Come out of the pose. Otherwise, we'll stay for 3 to 5 more breaths. Maybe we roll our head side to side a few times. Go ahead and bend both knees in towards the chest. Replace the feet to the floor and lift the block. And release the pelvis all the way to the ground. Taking the knees in towards one another as you Release the feet out towards the sides of the mat for constructive rest. Option to hug one arm over the other, holding behind the back. Allowing the fingertips to land wherever they land. Noticing the pulse underneath the fingers. Soften behind the neck. Open the arms wide. And then cross the opposite arm on top. Releasing the arms, releasing the knees. Let's take our left leg long, bring our right knee in towards our chest. Take our right arm out to the side like an airplane wing. As we gently pull that right knee across the body here. If you have your bolster nearby, you can rest your right leg. Then we can look towards the right. Option to keep the hands where they are, or to come to a cactus pose. Bringing the eyes back towards center, release the arms. Release that right knee back towards center. Hug the knee in towards the chest, maybe lifting the forehead towards the knee. And release the head down. And take the bolster to the opposite side. Take that left knee in towards the chest, just noticing left side, right side here. Release the right leg long. Take that left arm out to the side as we begin to pull the left knee across the midline here. Left hip can come off of the floor. We're resting our left leg on the bolster. And then perhaps looking towards the left, finishing the twist. Softening across the chest and the collarbones. Finding 3 to 5 more breaths. Finding a long inhale and a long exhale. Bringing the eyes back towards center. Release that left knee, the left hip. Hug the knee in towards the chest, maybe lifting the forehead. And release. And then taking that left leg long. We'll come towards our final resting pose. If you'd like to take a bolster underneath the knees, you can. And allowing the feet to flop open and the palms to flop open. as we soften behind the eyes and soften the brain away from the skull, allowing any final sensations to ripple through you and over you. Softening in all of the organs of the body, softening in the cells, softening in the space around the body. Allowing the fingertips and the toes to move through the air. And then rolling towards your right side if it's the morning, left side if it's the evening. Removing your bolster, using your arm as a pillow, bending the knees, and taking a few more breaths of transition. As you're ready to come back to a comfortable seated position, moving with the least amount of muscular effort, keeping the head and the eyes soft. And taking a moment to arrive with the head over the heart, over the pelvis. Simply noticing how it feels to sit now at the end of your practice. Taking the hands in front of the heart and noticing any part of the body that feels more open and more receptive. Checking in with your heart, noticing if there is a quality present in your heart, a feeling. Seeing if you can name it for yourself. And offering a bow to that. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your day.